Welcome to episode 61 of Let's Talk Possibility. It's the 4th of February 2013, and tonight we talk with Russell and Tyrone White about what sets top performers apart from merely average performers. Let's Talk Possibility, the show where we explore ideas, challenge thinking and inspire action. I'm Eric Vermeulen, and with me tonight, Talana Simpson.
Hello.
Tonight we're talking to Russell and Tyrone White, and Russell is better known as Coach Russ. And we want to talk to them about tonight what sets top performers apart from Joe Average. Now, Russell has earned his Springbok colours 9 times. 7 of those times were in different sports. Russell loves to share his tried and tested knowledge with others, and over the years has developed an exceptional skill and gift of being able to motivate athletes and normal people, I suppose, across a wide variety of disciplines. He has a unique and profound ability to pass this on through his incredible positive energy. His son Ty is joining us as well, and Tyrone is at the moment one of the top South African exterior athletes, regularly getting podiums and placing second in last year's World Exterior Championships in Hawaii. Russell, Ty, welcome to the show.
Good to be here. Thanks, Eric. Thanks, Alana.
Great.
Now, Russell, I want to start with you, and just quite simply, what do you believe sets top performers apart from Joe Average?
If you had to put it into one word, I'd say it's belief, Eric, because we've actually found that everybody is equal. It's just that person that has the belief and then will strive forward, not letting anything else get in their way. Just strive forward with what the goal is and have that belief in themselves the whole way.
Now, Tyrone, you've been on both sides of the fence, so to speak. You've been a top athlete, and you've also coached world champions in motocross and other sports. In your performance or in your sport, what do you think is that core belief that sets your performances apart?
A big part of it for me is dedication. Obviously, it's not easy being a professional athlete. It's often people with jobs will look at it and go, "Oh, it's so easy. You just sort of have to go out, do your sessions, come back, rest, do nothing else." But there's days when you don't want to be out there. It's raining, it's cold. The last thing you actually feel like doing is being on the bike or out on a run. But it's pushing yourself. It's having your goals set and doing everything possible to achieve those goals. That's always the biggest thing I find.
And so would you say that core belief of yours is just continually pushing the boundaries of possibility and discovering what's possible for yourself?
Oh, definitely. There's always more. You'll always finish a race and have learned something from that race, and you take that forward into your training and adjusting slightly, and so you're always learning. Every single race is a slight learning curve, and then from there you know that you can do better and you can train harder and achieve greater goals.
But I mean, Russell, it can't be easy working with and coaching your son.
It actually has, Eric. We often hear that the parents battle to coach their kids, but we've had such a good understanding with both my kids. And it's been about their passion and our love for what we're doing, whether it's surfing, riding motocross, mountain biking, whatever we do, we just love it. And we have like a big passion for it. And I've been doing this for, I won't say how many years, because you're now older, but for a long, long time. And I competed on the weekend as well with tires, and it was just, I just thought, how blessed am I to be able to do this?
But now, on one side, I hear you guys talking about dedication and belief, and Russell, now you've just said you guys go surfing, mountain biking, swimming, and you mentioned all sorts of other things. Doesn't that detract from focus?
No, you've got to have your downtime and your playtime. Obviously, like, come close now to exterior. Yesterday the surf was really good, and my younger son Sean phoned me and said, "You've got to come to surf good." I had done it at my schedule, and that's what I got you. And it got to me a bit because the surf was really good, but I'll focus, and then after exterior, I've got lots of time to surf again. So you have to realize and remember what your primary focus is, but you've also got to have fun in your life. Otherwise, it becomes a job, and you don't ever want that to happen.
But isn't a job the thing that puts food on the table?
No, I think a lot of people look at life like that, We get caught up and we have to earn this much to pay for our house and to pay for our car and to pay for our food. And there's a lot of people that have a lot less and are still happy. So you must have just enough If you really need a new bicycle, you can go and work more or train with people. But I find as long as you're happy, then you're blessed.
So you also agree that it's not about the bike?
I think it's a fair amount about the bike. If you've got a good bicycle.
So I just want to ask a question. You were saying then what sets a top performer apart from Joe Average is their belief. It's like one of the most important things is their mindset, which I understand is what you mean by belief. It's the way they look at what they're doing. But surely there's an element of actual skill as well.
You know, as soon as you get to a higher level, like if you look at the guys at the world champ level, there's probably, in motocross, there's probably 10 guys that can win a world title. But out of that, so they really have gift and they really have talent. But it's as soon as you instill in them a belief, if one of them just wins a motocross race, all of a sudden they win 2 or 3 in a row. Now, what makes that happen? It's their mind. Their mind says, you know what, I can do this. And we found this so often in all the sports. As soon as they've done well in one event, it kicks in. So you can feed that belief into them and feed it and push and push and push. But as soon as they win, then it sinks home.
Ty, have you found that once you got that first victory, winning became easier?
Yeah, I wouldn't say winning's ever completely easy. There's a lot of pain involved, but it's sort of, I struggled with that initially. I would always be strong in training, but come a race, I would never quite believe that I deserved to be up there. Especially like once I started winning the local races, the Natal races, it definitely helps. I'm still working on belief in the exteriors nationwide. There's obviously a lot stronger competition and it's a lot harder, but that's what keeps me going. It's the drive and the one to be on the podium and to be up there competing with the top guys in the world.
So then, can I ask another question then? If what sets top performers apart from the Joe Average, are you saying then that anyone could become a top performer? So if I wanted to now... Yeah?
If you wanted to, you can. If you really had the passion and you could dedicate 2 hours a day and a little bit longer than the weekend, you can get to the top in the world in your age group, to anything you want, as long as you have a little bit of talent in whatever that field is.
So you got to have a little bit of talent. That's what I was getting at. So there has to be some element of talent.
Every single one of us has talent in something. If you look back into anybody's past, they would have done well at swimming or running at school or very good hand-eye coordination. So you could identify what that is and say, right, these are the sports you can do, then they will do well at that. And you work into that, they will do well at that. That's a given. And we've seen it time and time again.
But Russell, I mean, surely the physical training isn't the only thing. And I mean, I know your approach to performance is a very balanced one.
Yeah.
So what other areas are sort of vitally important?
Oh, there's a lot around that, Eric. You know, as you know, your recovery, we can't stress enough how important recovery is. And by that, it's your downtime, it's your ice baths, it's taking the food in at the right time, your recovery drinks, your massages, your mindset. There's a lot more to recovery than just the word. But if you can just learn all those little things around what makes you successful, then the path is fairly easy. And also surrounding yourself with positive people, that we can't push home enough. You know, often when you're doing a sport, you get people around you that look at you and see and say, when are you going to get a proper job, or when are you going to grow up? Or so you've got to realize there's going to be a lot of that around you, and then just stick to your goal. The same as in work and in business. You know, stick to what your goal is and drive for that. You know, as long as it's for passion. If I can just bring up about a guy called Sampi Erasmus. He was a top motocross guy that came and lived with us and trained and then came for camps. And his goal was to race at a world level. And he was always all or nothing guy, a very poor upbringing. And he actually broke his back very badly, and he's got no use of his lower limb, a little bit of weakness in his arms. And, you know, he went through obviously a bit of a dip, but we re-looked at it and we said, okay, fine, you still have this passion, you still have a drive. And we put him, he got onto a motorbike with a roll cage and with hand controls. And he went to the X Games, which you well know in the States. It's huge. It's a world championship. And he beat all the guys in the world. He came first in the world. So he realized his goal, slightly different path, but he got to his goal.
So, I mean, that really is inspirational in terms of never giving up on that dream or that goal that you have for yourself.
Correct. Totally. You know, as well, he's a real burki. He decided he wanted to do wheelchair racing, and he phoned me and he said to me, Uncle Russ, I've got this wheelchair, and they've all got these flat things. Said all the wheelchairs are flat. His was a normal wheelchair. And he arrived at the race and he took off out the gate, getting all wheel head down the road. Anyway, he's now got onto a race bike and he's cleaning up. He's taken that passion across into that, you know. So he's got that heart. You've got to have, we call it the dog. You've got to have the dog in you.
Mm. Now, Tyrone and I were chatting before the show, before we went on air, and she was saying she's doing some kettlebell training and that sort of thing, but she says she can't get through that pain barrier.
Yeah, I don't know if you've got any pointers, but
explain it a bit more, Tyrone.
Well, my trainer gives me off the kettlebells and certain reps to do, and he's trying to get me to that next level. And he says all in my mind that I'm strong enough to do it, but yet I just feel so sore, you know, lifting up when we get to rep number 11, 12, 15, 20, whatever it is.
Ty, how do you get through that?
I think that is one of the big things that sets a top athlete apart from Joe Average. It's accepting that it's actually, you start to thrive on it. You know once you get to that level that's when you're going to start doing more than the average person. And you through it. It's something that does take a while, but it is completely mental. Your body can always push much further. I know a lot of the free divers and things like that, they once your body actually wants to, and it's giving you to take a breath, you've still got way longer to go than what your body's actually telling you. So it's your mind sort of shutting your body down to try and preserve itself, whereas you can push through it way more than what you think you're capable of. So that is something I think every person battles through and has to find their way of pushing through. Mine is always to think of my goals and to think of how hard my competitors are training, and to know that I need to train harder than them to achieve my goals. So that's how I managed to push through those pain barriers.
And it kind of links to the one question we've had on chat from Mongezi. He says, how does an average Joe, or in my case, awesome Mo, fight the bed at 5 a.m.?
So, yeah.
So his fight is to get out of bed.
Just to get out of bed. And I mean, it's funny. I've noticed, guys, that with that whole getting out of bed is just when the moment the alarm goes off, as soon as you hit snooze the first time, you're already in the corner, so to speak. And
I couldn't agree more.
And I know what's worked for me is just when the alarm goes off, the faster you get out of bed and into your running shoes or your cycling kit or whatever, and out the front door,
the better.
The easier that gets.
100%. You'll always feel bad for a few minutes. I think it was Bruce Fordyce that said that. If you feel really bad, run a K, and then if you still feel bad, then turn around. But normally after a while, you start warming up. I mean, we raced quite hard on Saturday at the Mudman, and we dug deep. And on Sunday morning, got up early, and I thought, come on, we had to cycle on at 5:30. And I talked to myself. It's almost like a third party. I think my wife thinks I'm nuts, and I'll go, come on, Russell, you can do this. Get up, come on. And then almost like I've got a coach standing next to me. And I've never really had a problem with that, If I've got something to do, I'll get up and do it straight away. So I only realise I'm tired by the time I'm getting in the garage or getting on my bike.
Yeah, and I mean, to latch onto what, Fordyce said, if you run a K and you're still feeling bad, by the time you've run a K home, at least you've done 2 Ks.
Correct. Hopefully you go a bit further.
Hopefully you go a bit further. I mean, Russell, when I've come down to you guys and done some training with you, one thing I always remember you stressing is training below a certain heart rate zone, particularly doing some base work. And you still believe that is absolutely important, and that most people, when they strive for performance, actually train too hard for it?
Yeah, we often, we'll go out in a training session, and especially if they're competitive training partners, they always try and beat each other when the goal maybe is a recovery so there's a given. There's times for everything. There's times for your recovery ride. There's times for your speed work as well, and that's obviously when you go for it. But we find that most people that come to us will say, but I'm doing 15 hours a week or 20 hours a week, but they'll all be doing it in what we call no man's land, where you're not going hard enough to be hard and you're not going easy enough to be easy. So it's just understanding those. You could actually cut it down to 3 different zones, but there's a lot more. But, your recovery, your no man's land, and then your speed work.
Could you tell us a bit more about those 3?
Look, your speed work, I've always been a fan of that. I always said that speed is king. If you, especially when you get to my age, if you've done a lot of long, slow, you get long and slow. And a lot of people do that. They'll go out and do their hours, have a little sandwich on the ride, come back home again. Wow, I've logged 3 or 4 hours, but done nothing meaningful. And then you come to a race and your body's going, no, this is too fast. I don't want to do this. So you have to, first of all, get your muscles used to that continuous movement, whatever it is, kettlebells, running, cycling, swimming, that you do in your base. And then you slowly but surely incorporate more speed or hills or wherever you feel that you're weak on. But we found a huge jump in performance with doing speed work, with testing your heart, pushing your heart. Our bodies are actually amazing, Eric. We've found more and more that the more we push it, the more it adapts and comes up to the task that you ask of it. We've seen we've got an old guy I shouldn't say old, he's going to kick my butt, but an oldish guy that's in his late 70s that's just run the Antarctic. He ran the Great Wall of China 2 months before that. He's a fantastic, normal guy, and he just loves it. He's passionate, and he's found now that doing speed work, he's having to, he competes with the younger guys.
So would speed work be on a track in a controlled sort of environment, or could you just go out anywhere and just run or ride at a particular heart rate?
Anywhere at a particular heart rate, intervals, like 5-minute intervals, 1-minute intervals, get the thing. The longer the interval, slightly lower the heart rate. The shorter the interval, the faster the heart rate. But it's almost like if you look at guys that get into a race car, they'll start it up, and then they'll let it idle a little bit, and then they'll slowly warm it up, and then they'll rev it a few times, and then rev it a few times more, and then the engine is heated up and it's ready to go. And our bodies are very much alike. We've got to put the right fuel in, obviously, which is food, and that's another huge chapter. That's what I really want to get through to people, is what we eat is crucial. But you have to warm your body up to do that. But you find if you do probably, I'd say, maybe 6 weeks of speed work, you can cut your times in any given sport dramatically.
So then let's pick up then on what you want to get out there. You said the nutrition, what we eat, is so important. Because I've definitely noticed with my training, if I haven't eaten properly, for a few days or leading up to it or afterwards, I don't feel that great, and I obviously don't perform as much. So what is it that you want to get out there? What message have you got?
Well, our nutrients are so depleted now in our food, so it's even more important to make sure that we eat the right foods. And unfortunately, we have to supplement. I know there's a scientist that says you don't really need to supplement, but we need to supplement because our food just is so depleted now. If you look at what the meat is like, and it's very, very hard to get pure food. So it's become more and more important, and not only for us, but for our children. We have to make sure that they eat correctly. There's a lot of information out there, so you go on what you think is right, and mostly it's what's grown in the ground or what's natural, what's alive and not man-made is good for us.
But surely, Russell, or Ty, they're supplements, and then there are supplements. How can you tell the difference? You walk into any dischem or pharmacy, and there's a whole 2, 3, 4 aisles dedicated to supplements. How do you know which ones are worth buying and which ones you shouldn't touch with the barge pole?
That I feel very sorry for the normal public, because it's so difficult. Obviously, guys advertise in a huge way to push their product. But when in doubt, get a good, well-known brand, or you can tweet us or follow us on Facebook, and I'll let you know a few of the brands that I know. Obviously, there must be more, but you've got to be really careful, because in that sort of range, there's a lot of pitfalls. There's a lot of people just throwing stuff out there.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people fall into that advertising trap as well, and end up taking handfuls of pills and vitamins every morning.
Yeah.
So isn't it more then about just understanding, because you have to do a bit of research and actually understand what nutrition is, that your body needs a certain amount of protein, a certain amount of carbohydrates and vitamins and minerals, and just making sure that when you just choosing any supplements and like overdosing on a certain, too many minerals and then missing out on the proteins, for example.
Correct. Yeah, look, you can't just, if one pool's good for me, then 6 must be excellent.
Yeah.
You have to be very careful with that, but we do need to make sure that we're eating really well. And again, I go back to that, whatever was, not man-made is good for us, but we do have to supplement. There's some very, very good companies out there that make really good products. And even then, just on the safe side and perhaps take half of what they recommend. But there's a lot of easy tests you can go to as well and see what you know and what your kids know. But most of the times, I've actually found a fantastic guy. I've been using his books for years as well. If I can say his name, Patrick Holford.
Yes.
And he's written some fantastic books on the mind and on how supplementation helps and eating correctly. And we follow a principle very similar to that. Obviously, there's some stuff that we use and don't use, but you must find your own path and what's right for you and your children and know that it's good for them. But it's quite easy to test as well.
But, Russell, you mentioned the word sports scientist, and then Talana mentioned one of those other hot topics at the moment, that a certain sports scientist now claims you should be not eating too much of carbohydrates. What are your guys' view on that?
No. I think everybody has the right to say what they want, but I think we've got to be very careful. You've got to be balanced. And there's nothing better than a good apple, which happens to be carbohydrates, or a sweet potato, and that's where we found our energy comes from in racing. Maybe there's a secret bullet out there, I don't know, but we definitely need, and your children need, carbohydrates. What we found is that we weren't having enough good quality protein in our diets, and that's where I feel is right. But it needs to be a lot more balanced. You cannot race on a protein shake. I mean, it's just, we've tried it and you just can't. You need a certain amount of carbohydrates, and your carbohydrates releases tryptophan and serotonin and all the good feel-good chemicals. And we need that as well, obviously, especially nowadays. But you don't need it in the high sugar quantities like America seems to consume, and now I believe in England as well, where everything is sugar. The drinks that you get, the meat is even injected with sugar, and that's a big bugbear of mine, is our sugar consumption, and that's the biggest no-no. I met a yoga instructor once who said that sugar is actually worse than cocaine. I would say they're both just as bad, in my opinion. But sugar is a big no-no for us, and that's the wrong call.
I think organic, anything as much organic as you can find, the better. Organic and free range.
Yeah, and everything in moderation, as you're saying. So the balance, making sure you have the carbohydrates and the proteins. So we've actually got another interesting question that's come through on the chats from Mongezi again. How do you start the process before you get to the belief stage, which he thinks you build up to? So for me, there's kind of two questions there. Is one is for someone who has, aspiration to just improve their performance in whatever sport they've chosen, how would they actually start? And because you're saying what makes them different, especially when you're competing at a high level where your skills more or less the same. What makes someone different from the other people competing is their belief. Is that something you build up to?
It can be built up to, but obviously training is always difficult in the beginning. You obviously it needs to become a habit, and the first 10 days or so probably aren't going to be easy. You're going to feel like you're not going anywhere, things aren't easy, but the best way to do it is before you even start is to set a goal. If you've got something to work towards, then I find it's a hell of a lot easier to keep it going. If you just write down and stick it around the house, stick it on the back of the bedroom door, whatever area that you tend to see it quite often, even if it's at your office desk. If you have your goal in front of you, you're going to find sort of 9 times out of 10, it's a lot easier to then chase after that, and that'll start your belief system.
I've heard, by the way, Ty, that the back of the bathroom door is a pretty good place to stick goals, because you're in there at least once a day.
You've got good memories.
So maybe we can ask you, so what are some of the goals that you've set for yourself? Because I know in the past I've set goals like to do a certain race, the Argus, for example. But then straight when the Argus I've done it, I'm all excited, and then I don't train for a couple of months. And then I have to go through the process of setting another goal or finding another race to work towards. So I'd be quite interested in how do you go about setting goals? Are they goals that work, build up on each other? Or is it a matter of just every time you reach the goal, resetting another one?
Yeah, that definitely is a difficult thing. I know a lot of people will focus towards a certain race, and obviously if they're not athletes per se, they sort of aim towards a 94.7 or an Argus. And a lot of people actually sort of get slightly depressed after the race, and because they don't have any other goals to aim for. So for me, myself, what I'll do is I'll set weekly goals. I'll set then monthly goals. Like once at the end of each sort of training block, I'll have tests that I'll do, and obviously I want certain numbers to be reached, whether it's on the run, the swim, the bike. And those are sort of the mini goals that keep you going between races. And then obviously I'll have race goals as well, whether it's winning at a Mudman or podiuming at an exterior, certain things like that. But it definitely helps to have intermediate goals, sort of, like short-term goals, medium-term goals, long-term goals, because that keeps you going, keeps you focused. You don't want to finish a race and then lose all focus and lose all drive. You want to keep that going, keep the weight loss going, even if it's a goal of dropping 2 more kilos for your next race or something small, just to keep you focused.
And so I guess, Tyrone, what that means is enter an Argus or that big race, but in leading up to that, make sure you set sort of weekly, monthly goals that would get you to that one goal. Ty, quick question there around goal setting. And the athletes that you guys work with, don't you often find that a lot of athletes set goals that are too easy more often than they set goals that are too difficult?
Yeah, obviously, no one wants to not achieve a goal. Obviously, everyone wants to set, well, it's not really wants to, but will tend to err on the side of setting an easier goal than they could actually achieve. And that's probably the most important thing about having a coach and someone who actually can see what your potential is, and they can say to you, listen, you can achieve way more than that. Let's push for more. Let's push for, if you're going for a top 10, let's push for a top 7, a top 5, or just to try and get that little bit extra out of you. That's where a coach will come in. It's very hard to motivate yourself. There's few people who can motivate themselves really well, and that's why you look at the top athletes. Most of them will have coaches, because you need that person to push you, to tell you when to back off. A lot of top athletes don't know when to rest and would rather train harder than rest, and that's also when a good coach will come in to back you off and to help you to rest.
Fantastic. Guys, in summary, Russell, if you can choose 3 things that top performers do that non-performers don't do, what would those 3 things be?
Drive, passion, and belief.
To find out more about our guests, have a look at ltp.letstalknetwork.tv, where you can learn more about Russell and Tyrone White. One way to contact our guests is on Twitter. Russell is at CoachRuss1 and Tyrone is at Tyrone White. Please share your views. Tell us what you think on our Facebook page. That is Let's Talk Possibility, or follow us on Twitter at LT Possibility.